All right, so welcome back to another Northeast Offshore Report. I'm Jimmy Fee.
Cheech.
So we're coming at the end of what was a stretch of really great weather. I know some captains were almost kind of hoping for a lay day or two. I think I talked to Captain Dom Petrarca, and he said he'd been out for like 12 days straight or something crazy like that. So it's been a great summer in terms of weather and getting out there. Anthony and I, between the two of us, actually got out 3 times over the last week since the last report. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to start this week's report down off New Jersey, starting southern New Jersey. Our South Jersey report writer, Captain Brett Taylor, said that there's been a great bluefin tuna bite happening from Ocean City, New Jersey, on up to Seaside Park. Now, that's a little bit further south than you typically hear of the inshore bluefin. And when he says inshore, he's talking about like 5 to 15 miles off. He was actually on his way in from some fluke fishing offshore, found 40 to 70 inch bluefin tuna just 4 miles off Barnegat Inlet. Now, he did not, I pinged him back to ask him if he had any tuna gear on board, but I'm guessing he did not. But anybody going out for fluke fishing, anywhere you're going more than 5 miles off New Jersey, you're going to want to make sure you have a couple things. 1, your highly migratory species permit, and 2, some tuna popping gear. Brett said they were on sand eels, and that's pretty consistent with what we've been hearing off New Jersey for the last couple weeks now, is that there are bluefin tuna 15 to 30 miles off. It sounds like they drifted even a little bit closer, but they're spotty and they're picky. That mid-shore tuna bite, yellowfin tuna bite that they had off New Jersey, jigging, popping, and trolling, that seems to have drifted a little bit offshore. I know that hit a bit of a hiccup, and a great indicator of that is that the boats from northern New Jersey, the boats from Long Island that you typically see fishing the spots like the Coimbra, like the Atlantic Princess Wreck, all those mid-shore type structures off northern New Jersey, off the south shore of Long Island, some of them have been making some very long commutes out east fishing the southern New England tuna grounds. Captain John McMurray is a good example. He's a big-time light tackle tuna captain out of kind of the western Long Island, out of the Long Island South Shore. I was out tuna fishing on Saturday and kind of did a double take. We were fishing east of Block Island. I saw one more cast come through and then saw on Facebook afterwards, McMurray has been trailering his boat all the way out to Montauk. So a two-hour commute with his trailer, but it's worth it for what is out of Montauk, a 40-mile run, a 40-minute run to what's been some spectacular mid-shore bluefin and yellowfin tuna fishing. Anthony, you want to talk about that a little bit?
We've been the beneficiary of that in a little further north in our inshore tuna grounds. The weather's been great. We've been able to get out a lot. Jimmy and I, both have gotten out between the two of us 3 times in the last week since the last report. So we'll have some first-hand data, but basically the grounds that are a little south of Block Island and south of the Vineyard have been just jam-packed with life, almost too much life. I mean, the last trip out, hundreds of whales, probably 1 billion dolphins, and bait everywhere.
Yeah, your report to me was, you said it was the most life you've ever seen in an area.
Yeah. It really was, but the one thing that wasn't abundant in that area was, massive schools of yellowfin and bluefin tuna roaming around, wreaking havoc, and we realized that pretty early on. Got to the point where we got to scan this life, drop some jigs to fish on the bottom. We were marking maybe a fish every 45 minutes, so to me it was kind of giant bluefin vibes. And we went searching for, kind of smaller pieces of life that may have had more feeding tuna with it, and found our way headed inshore, where Joe DiOrio and Joe Baggs were fishing, and basically on a nice inshore jig bite, a little south of Cox's. And, I joined the party. We got 5 bites in, a couple hours. You kind of had to work for them. And it was kind of that type of a day out there where it should have broke wide open, but it didn't. But the Suffolk's been fishing pretty good. Some guys have been catching them on the troll. They've been able to jig some. There's been some surface feeds. From the Suffolk to the dump and back to Tuna Ridge has been kind of the money zone to go looking.
If you were going to go ahead and rank the 3 tuna trips we took this week, I took one Saturday, Cheech took one Tuesday, and then I took one Wednesday, and they kind of had a trajectory like this. And that seemed consistent with a lot of other...
kind of like a plane crash.
It felt like that on Wednesday. But that was consistent with a lot of the reports you were hearing from other captains, is that the bite on Saturday and Sunday was lights out, wide open jig bite, good fish on the troll, and it got a little pickier and a little pickier. Until Wednesday, we did the dreaded 0 for 0 on the way in. And there were fish caught, captains caught them. They were a little bit further west.
Yeah.
But what had happened on Saturday is you had a great mix of yellowfin and bluefin. And it's the first time I've ever experienced a bite like that, where we trolled up. We were trolling with Robbie Tartaglia and Rob Tartaglia. Robbie Tartaglia now works with our production department here at On the Water. And we started the day not finding too much, set out the spread, and decided to troll to locate some life. Doubled up, one bluefin, one yellowfin, and by the time we dealt with those fish, we looked around, saw some other boats in the area hooking up on jigs, and man, that kicked off kind of like a 2-hour jig bite. And again, we doubled up with one bluefin on and one yellowfin, and that was the bite then that was driving guys like John McMurray to come out and fish those waters east of Montauk, east of Block Island, in order to get in on that light tackle tuna bite, because that's really the only place it's happening with any consistency.
Yeah.
Guys are getting, the light tackle tuna off New Jersey a little bit, but those bluefin in close, like I said, they can be very finicky, they can be very scattered and tough to find, but you want to be prepped and ready for them just in case you see them when you're out doing your other fishing.
And I love that scenario. It's so cool to be able to catch bluefin, catch yellowfin. You don't know if you're going to come across a white marlin. You got mahi. I mean, when we were fishing on Tuesday, we went 0 for 5, which was kind of just everything that could have went wrong. A lot of bad luck involved, but got 5 bites, so just couldn't seal the deal. But we had a pack of mahi kind of, swimming around the boat. No mahi gear.
Cheech came in, he said, I just had the worst tuna trip ever, and I said, hold my beer.
That's basically how that went. What have you been hearing out east, Jim?
All right, so those captains out east of Chatham, fishing east of Cape Cod, places like the Sword, they've been a little bit quiet, and I think there's been so much attention brought to those grounds around Block Island, those tuna grounds, and you can see the fleet out there. I know you probably saw a ton of boats out there the other day. I saw them Wednesday and Saturday. So anything happening east of Chatham, they're probably happy to let that fly under the radar as long as they can. But last week there was developing that kind of jig bite for giants that we saw last year in August. That kind of lasted through August into September, and I know there was at least one really big fish caught on the jig, a 400-pounder by a fisherman named Jarrett Williams. Caught a 400-pounder that they sold, they put in the truck, so they got the exact weight on it, and he caught that all by himself without passing off the rod.
That's impressive.
Yeah, after an hour and 15 minutes, and you and I know,
He must work out.
Yeah, well, at least he probably just hasn't let himself go this far as we have at the very least. But so there are some giants out there. There's some giants on Stellwagen, and the bait has been not too much of an issue, especially if you want to get live bluefish. Bluefish, which are a favorite bait of giant tuna fishermen, they've been around in pretty good numbers this year, so guys have been able to get them. The mackerel have been, I guess, a little spottier. I know a friend of ours, Jonah Olson, went out to do some fishing on Stellwagen this week, looking to find mackerel for bait. Didn't find any mackerel, and then the wind kicked up, so he ended up just kind of calling it a day.
I got a report today from a buddy who's out in his regulator with his old man on the southwest corner. They ran into a couple feeds first light, obviously bluefin, and they're searching for basically either a bait bite or a jig bite right now. Haven't got an update on how they fared, but they saw tuna, which is always a good sign. That's about all I have from the bank.
Yeah, talking about the canyons, though, moving a little bit further offshore.
Yeah.
Last week's big offshore tournament was out of Atlantic City, the Jimmy Johnson Quest for the Ring tournament. 568-pound blue marlin ended up winning that for that team. Now, this week's tournament was the Tri-State Canyon Shootout, and that launches from Block Island. And the format of that tournament is that you choose an overnight window. So you either fish Monday, Tuesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. And a lot of those teams seem to run on that Tuesday, Wednesday window just because that was the nicest weather. And you also had the boats that went out Monday, Tuesday would have bird dogged it for you a little bit.
Yeah.
There were not a ton of, a friend of mine was fishing that, Nick Haney, and he was looking for his boat. They wanted to catch a big eye tuna to win win that prize there. That was their goal. He said to commit to the billfish thing, like those boats are really dialed in, the ones that are going for the blue marlin and the white marlin. So they committed to big eye. Sounded like it was a bit of a tough big eye bite. Over the course of the tournament, I think only a half dozen big eye were weighed in, but up to 244 pounds. Oof. So that's what you're hearing in the canyons, kind of in New England. What I heard about down south, south of the Hudson Canyon, down to like the Wilmington, a few more big eye being caught there, but up here, in terms of the yellowfin tuna side of things, or I'm sorry, in terms of the tuna side of things, way more yellowfin than big eye. Those big eye, we read one report on Facebook where it suggested they're further west, so they're not quite in the eastern canyons just yet. But anything tuna fishing does, it just changes constantly. So that big eye bite may turn on for us up in New England. What was surprising was the number of marlin caught to me, especially blue marlin. And I mean, this is the year I'm paying more attention to the offshore fishing than I have ever in the past. But
it's been a great billfish year.
It definitely
especially
has,
on the blue marlin side of things.
Yeah, there were 11 caught and released throughout the course of the Tri-State tournament, which to me seems like a lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of boats going out there and skilled crews from all around the world fishing these tournaments, but 11 blue marlin, like that to me seems like an awful lot of blue marlin caught over a 4-day span.
It is, and these guys, you got to keep in mind, they're not fishing a marlin only tournament, so that kind of is going to hamper the numbers a lot, because a lot of boats are going to be, unless they're targeting specifically big eyes or specifically blue marlin, a lot of them kind of fish that versatile spread where you got maybe one marlin lure in the spread and the rest is really kind of aimed at tuna. So that I think kind of affects those numbers some. I don't know how many boats go out there and target specifically blue marlin. If you did, I bet we know the people that have done it with a lot of success, with regularity, and they tend to be on the bigger side of the spectrum, which is pretty cool.
White marlin fishing, I said, if I was going to give it a grade, I'd probably say a B. Maybe a B minus. Doesn't seem like there's a ton of them around. Guys are seeing them, guys are catching a few, but when that fishing really fires up, guys are getting a ton of them in the spread, lots of shots. I think there were 30 caught throughout the course of the Tri-State tournament, so that not a ton. I mean, we've got the bigger white marlin tournaments are coming up throughout August. White Marlin Open, the Mid-Atlantic 500, and that's when you see some really, really big numbers, because the white marlin in those tournaments, that's the big money fish.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally staring at the Sirius Fish Mapping layout right now, and
we just got that set up on the water regulator, and that's why we're doing this down at the boat today, because we're kind of messing around and checking it out.
We can see where the white marlin hot zone is right now, and it's heading this way. So pretty cool. I mean, right now we got billfish checked off, swordfish, tuna, and wahoo, and I mean, it's funny that the tuna areas are literally lit up right where we found them, where we hooked them and caught them, and so on and so forth. And what's got my eye is some really good wahoo water within range here, which I'd love to check that box soon.
We've done it, man. I mean, not you and I personally, but on the water. We've gone out, targeted wahoo successfully in New England. And you've heard of some nice ones this year. I know 75-pounder was the biggest one weighed in a Tri-State. Our friend Kevin Gould had a really nice one during the Oak Bluffs
Look at that zone
tournament.
of wahoo juice right there, according to the fish mapping. We can't give it all away for nothing, but
we'll give you a little peek. But what this basically does is this is their fishing recommendations. So they are analyzing all the data. Here's the sea surface temperatures, the plankton concentrations, the weed lines, all these other things that these species look for, and they say, okay, here's a little stretch of ocean where you might want to concentrate your efforts if you've got, if you have a wahoo in your heart.
It's basically an algorithm that takes into consideration all of the factors that scientists know make those species happy, and when they reach that ideal level, it basically paints a little circle with a color-coded grid to say, hey, if you're going to go looking for wahoo, here's probably our best 3 recommendations where there's going to be numbers of that species in this area. So get signed up for that. Check that out. It's a valuable tool if you have.
I'm really looking forward to having this in the arsenal, because it is. Everything about offshore fishing is intel gathering initially, is going out there with as much info as you possibly can, and then putting that into play on the grounds. And I thought we had a ton of info on Wednesday, but it just, the fish have been moving. I mean, that's been, so Captain Rob Taylor, Newport Sport Fishing Charters, I talk with him a whole lot. He is always on the bite. He not only he's got incredible instincts, But he's out there also, 4 or 5 days a week chasing tuna. But he said, these fish that we're seeing south of the vineyard, he said they're moving around a whole lot. He said they're pushing the bait around. There's no one area where they're staying day after day after day. So having that network out there and constantly moving and then analyzing the sea surface temperatures and things like that, that's going to help you stay on them. But I want another shot at the jig bite. I love catching bluefin tuna on the jig or any tuna on the jig. I think it's
lots
just
more shots at all of it.
So we've got a couple days off with the wind kicking up and the seas kicking up, but we'll be back at it hopefully sometime in the next week. In any event, we will be. Oh, I almost forgot.
He forgot it last week. I wasn't here to hold his hand through it to keep us on our structure here with the favorite Facebook report of the week. So I grabbed this one, and it is from Michael Wadsworth on Northeast Offshore Pelagic Reports. He said he left Old Saybrook, Connecticut on Friday for the edges, set in at East Atlantis, and went east all the way to the hard break from 81 degrees to 74. All the fish were on the warm side. Found yellows, filled the box with them, had a few white marlin on, and tons of mahi as well. Set up in Veach for the night and barely got the lead in the water on the sword rod, and he ripped my butterfly mahi right out of my hand. 25 minutes later, we had a nice 225-pound sword on deck. The yellows were abundant, but kind of spotty. Most of all of them have come on the green stick. Beautiful weather this weekend as well out there. Can't beat it. A few eyeballs were caught, but nothing crazy. I think they are to the west, down towards the Dip and Hudson. Most fish were in the 79.5 to 81 degree water to the east where we were. Awesome report, Michael. That's a hell of a swordfish and really a banner trip.
That's a canyon trip I've been waiting for my whole life. Like I've never had a canyon trip where you go out there and like, we're catching this, like it's always like, holy shit, we're 8 hours in, the box is empty, the ice is melting. Like
let's go catch tilefish and mahi.
Yeah, that's been 90% of my canyon trip experiences on private boats. On head boats, I seem to have a lot better track record canyon fishing on the head boats. But thank you for tuning in to another Northeast Offshore Report. We'll see you next Friday, hopefully with some more good offshore fishing information.
Thanks for watching.